1, 2, 3, 4.
Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bang chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bang chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now.
What up, y'all? It's Babylon 5 Podcast. It's your boy, Jermaine Events. How is everyone doing? How has your weeks been? How's your week been? Hope your week has been phenomenal, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 154. Calling this bad boy No Show. There's never really too much of a meaning, no deep meaning behind the name, other than the fact that I feel like putting a name on it rather than just naming it episode 154. It just looks cooler. It looks better on the streaming service, especially when I looked at it on Apple, how the episodes display on Apple. So it's episode 154, calling this bad boy No Show. We were going to talk about this punk show that my boy Brian put on at this park. I've never been to this park before, but we went there. It's a pretty interesting park. We're going to talk about that. Talk about some things. Going to react to UFC 277, ladies and gentlemen, which was headlined 2 title fights. Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena 2. We had Kai Kara France versus Brandon Moreno 2. Both title fights at, I believe Brandon Moreno is 125. Because, Jermaine would be 135. Volkanovski 145. So, that's the 125 champion, or 125 pound division between Kai Kara France and Brandon Moreno. Then the 135 women's division, Nunes versus Pena. I'm also going to give predictions about a few of the fights on UFC Fight Night. Santos versus Hill. We have next week Thiago Santos in the main event versus Jamal Hill. And definitely going to talk about a couple fights on that card that I find interesting. And if you guys would like to follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. You guys could email this podcast at Babylon5Podcast@gmail.com. If you guys would like to hit that like button anywhere that you're listening to this podcast, I appreciate that so much. If you guys are on Twitch, go ahead and follow me at twitch.tv/Babylon5. You guys can cop some merchandise at teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. And if you guys would like to join my Patreon and be my patrons, you guys can head to patreon.com/Babylon5pod. I'm hanging just a little, just ever so slightly right now. As I was saying last week, I didn't know how much of the fights I was going to be able to watch live because there was a festival here, like just right on the street where I live. So, I don't know. I think they're just the pressures, man. More so anxiety, so I self-medicate with way too much alcohol, and now my tummy hurts. I feel like I could Ralph a little bit here, if you will, pardon me, but I don't know, I swear I'm a little low energy right now, if you will. I was like, I'll try to record this when I feel like I can, but earlier I felt like I was able to do it maybe 12 o'clock. I felt like I could do it, but I was probably still a little drunk from the night before. By the sounds of it, I was pretty blacked out after the fights. I thought I remember most of it, but yeah, I definitely was like, oh no, I don't remember that happening last night at all. But I saw all the fights. Not all the fights. I didn't watch all the fights live. I stepped out for a little bit, drank too much. I was out there for maybe like 40 minutes, like max. I remember I left. Maybe like I probably left my house, my apartment at like 9:20, and I think I was back. Like when I left, I think Anthony Smith was just starting to walk out, and I was back in the house before Kai Kara France and Brandon Moreno fought. So if that tells you anything at all, like I was not out there for too long, but I was drinking. And I figured if I was gonna, be out in these streets, like I usually have a few brews when I watch the fights, but I figured if I was gonna go out, with like anxiety and all that, I was drinking quite a bit. Maybe I overdid it, but definitely feeling it today, ladies and gentlemen. But yesterday, UFC 277 had there's a lot of good fights on there. A lot of people were hating on this card going into it. I'd say probably because, people just kind of throw a lot of shade on women's fighting in general. You know what I'm saying? Even MMA fans throw shade on women fighting. So it's kind of hard because there'll be people that I talk to on Twitter, and I'll start to like seem like, oh, we're developing an acquaintanceship, if you will, through Twitter. And then I'll see them post like before a women's fight, just a gross opinion. Like just dismissing these women before the fight even happens. Like it's pretty weird because it's like, fuck. Definitely don't really want to associate with somebody with that kind of mindset. But it was a really good card. Got a lot of slack. There's one guy on this card, Michael Morales. You know what I'm saying? When I saw this fight on the card, I was like, I feel like there should be more hype for this fight. This is a young prospect. He's 23 years old now. After the performance he put on at UFC 277, is 14-0. This man looks super powerful. And when I'm watching him, he gives me vibes of like the confidence, the swagger. He gives me vibes of Israel Adesanya. Like he looks special in there. There's the flaw where he moves forward with his chin up in the air. He's 23 years old. He's young. But he's so fucking powerful. He's so skilled. He's so talented at 23 years old. It's insane to think about. Because, man, he looks really good in there. I mean, we have seen... I was real high on Baeza, Miguel Baeza. We've seen his limitations. Michael Morales fought a guy debuting in the UFC on, I believe, 2 weeks' notice. And he finished him in the third round. This man looks really fucking cool, all right? He's got swag to what he's doing out there, man. Like, he looks to be a problem at welterweight. If he shores up just that flaw with his striking, coming forward with his chin straight up in the air, Michael Morales is a problem at welterweight. At 23 years old, finishing people in the UFC, are supposed to believe this is the highest level. As I'm saying, the guy he fought was making his UFC debut on a 2-week notice, but we will see going forward, hopefully, how this young 23-year-old, his parents are both like black belts in judo, comes from a fighting background, and he looks very skillful. He has the swagger in there. I'm telling you, this Michael Morales guy, I think the only thing holding him back, like at the moment, is that he does not speak English. You know what I'm saying? If Du Bronx spoke English, he'd clearly be like one of the biggest stars right now. His fighting style. Like, as you guys know, if you're a longtime listener, I was saying he was going to be the next champion after Khabib. I thought he was going to beat Khabib before Khabib retired. The only reason why everybody doesn't really know too much about him is because he doesn't speak English. But as soon as Amanda Nunes starts speaking English, she starts headlining cards. You know what I'm saying? Am I crazy for thinking she didn't always speak English? Am I crazy? Am I wrong here? I could be wrong, but I didn't think she spoke English too well back in the day. I could be wrong here. I feel like early on. Whatever. Well, all I'm saying is you've seen it. Was it like Jose is speaking English now? There's a few people who are speaking English. I'm not saying that like we don't look at Jose Aldo as one of the greatest fighters, but I think in an American-based organization like this, it would certainly help. So that's the biggest obstacle I see right now for Michael Morales, other than like just walking forward with his hands down and his chin up. The problem that I see here is he just has to speak English just to be more marketable to the American-based company. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. The skill should get him where he needs to be, because he's super fucking talented. There's a lot of talented fighters on this card, man. Nico Nigga Meru, as Daniel Cormier called him. Nikolai Negumerianu. It's hard to pronounce. The guy from Romania. Looks pretty amazing. Jocelyn Edwards steps in on, I believe, 2-week notice as well to fight Ji-yeon Kim. She gets a win. Shout out to Jocelyn Edwards on the early prelims. There's this guy, Hamdi Abdel Wahab. I didn't know he was undefeated. He's a fucking tank at heavyweight. He fought Dante Mays. He looked great. He's great standing. He's a big boy. Right, he's a big boy. Shout out to Drew Dober, who gets the stoppage of Rafael Alves. Hurts him in the body shot. All right, works him to the body. I did not see Alex Morono versus Matt Semmelsberger, but Morono won that fight. Shout out to Morono. I did not see that fight. I was getting dressed to hit these streets. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I forgot. I did not see the Drakkar Close Rafa Garcia fight either. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. Partying and bullshitting. Magomed Ankalaev finishes Anthony Smith in the second round. That ground and pound was nasty. All right. I love Anthony Smith. But if you can like that wrestling shit, when they get him on the ground and then he just like kind of curls up into a ball. I saw him do it with John Jones. It was very, because I thought he could have, I was like, man, he could win this fight. And then he was just on the ground, round after round, just in this ball. He was kind of doing that here with Magomed Ankalaev when he got him on the ground, and he was just like really reining in that ground and pound. It was like, all right, let's curl into a ball. I don't know why that happens. I mean, he's defending, he's trying not to get hurt, but this is my problem. You can't just stay there. You need to you need to move, get out of there, make something happen. I've seen like with Glover, and they were like, man, they were like talking about the teeth falling out, but apparently that was just a thing that happens with him. Like those teeth that fell out, they were like implants or some shit like that. And it had happened before. So he's just round after round curled up in a ball, like next to fence, getting fucking beat up. And it's like, bro, you have to try to get out of there. You have to do something to move. You can't just, why are we just letting this happen? It's crazy. I don't understand how that keeps happening. You can't just fucking curl up into a ball and just take damage. And because you're tough enough to just take all this damage until the round ends. But it's what was going on here, and the refs stopped it. Uncle Smith said, like, I think he broke his leg or some shit. I'm not too sure. I didn't see that fight live. I was outside in these streets trying to watch Vincent Van Graden Ninja Sauce. You know, but I was like out here at Brady Fest with my phone in my hand watching fights. Like while this festival's going on, I was that weird guy watching fights on his phone at a festival. Ran into Montel Quick Jackson, actually. When I was on my way back, I watched Derek Lewis. Shout out to Pantoja. So I turned off my phone like at the end of the Ankalaev fight. I didn't watch the Pantoja fight. And then my boy Landon calls me, and he's just like real hype about what just happened in this Pantoja fight. Like super hype. And then I was like, oh shit, let me put these fights on just so I can see what's the next fight. And it's Derek Lewis versus Sergey Pavlovich. I didn't agree with that fucking ending. So I was like, fuck, I want to go home and watch the rest of these fights. And as I'm walking home, I see Montel fucking Quick Jackson walking the opposite direction. I'm like, yo, Montel. He's like, oh, hey, what's up? And like, we shuck up. He was a cool dude. But I just told him he's dope. Fan. And I kept it moving. I had to keep going. I was shocked. Like, when I got home, I was like, why wasn't he watching the fights? Why isn't he watching the fights? I believe he fights 135. Maybe I'm wrong. He could be 125. Let's just take a look. It couldn't have been his weight class that was... I don't agree with this. He's 135. Okay, so that's not his weight class. It says he's 5'10". I don't agree with that. If he's 5'10", I'm 5'11". All right? If he's 5'10", I'm 5'11". I don't agree with that. That's what I saw, because I ran. I was like, oh, I'm taller than homeboy. I thought he'd be a lot bigger than me. Especially since it says 5'10", and I'm not 5'10". I don't think I'm 5'10". I'm like 5'9". But I felt like I was taller than Montel Jackson. Montel Quick Jackson. Shout out to him. He's a cool dude. He don't talk too much. If you'd like to come on the podcast, if you ever hear this, my nigga, you can come on the podcast. Just let me know. And yeah. Shout out to Montel Quick Jackson. But so I head back to the crib to watch Brandon Moreno versus Kai Kara France 2. And as I said last week, I would be rooting for Kai Kara France, but I felt like Brandon Moreno had improved. They both improved, but I felt like Brandon Moreno had improved far beyond the level. Like, he was better than Kai the first fight, and he's since then improved to new heights that Kai didn't even know was there. This is like when fucking Vegeta and Goku were fighting. You know what I'm saying? And Vegeta's like, nah, fuck this nigga. I gotta show him that I could beat this nigga's ass. And they fighting tooth and nail. And then this nigga Majin Buu comes out. And Vegeta goes and fights that nigga. He wants to prove that he could beat the evil nigga. He could be the one that beats the nigga. And he knocks Goku out and ultimately dies trying to be the hero. And then that fucking nigga, like, Vegeta thought he was there. He thought he was on the level with Goku that whole time. And then you find out, oh shit, this nigga's unlocked a brand new fucking, like, level. He's on Super Saiyan 3. He's doing some shit I ain't never even heard of over there now. That's what happened with this fight. Brandon Moreno finishes Kai Kara-France with a body kick. I believe in the third round. Could be wrong. Or it could say right there. Yeah, third round. Third round body kick. It's pretty interesting because just like with the Drew Dober fight versus Rafael Alves, you know, there was a bit of a delayed reaction to the body shot. And then they just collapse. And that's pretty much it. They can't defend themselves at that point. And after this fight was over, they cut to Davison Figueiredo in the crowd holding up his belt. You know, this is a fight for the interim title. And Figueiredo is in the audience holding up his belt. And then they bring Figueiredo into the octagon. Figueiredo says, "This is Brandon Moreno's night. Tonight he is the champion." But he says he wants to fight again in December. And he said he would love to fight Moreno in December to unify the belts. And then they shake hands there and agree to fight in December. And they raise their hands up. And I was like, why don't they do this shit more often? Why don't they do this shit more often? I know I said, like, what was it, bare knuckle? When the people were fighting after the post-fight, in the post-fight press conference, I think they brought Hector Lombard. They brought somebody in there to talk shit to Hector Lombard. Lombard started swinging. Wasn't playing them games. And I've been like, why would you bring, like, in that situation, this guy is in full fight mode. All right? Just because that fight is over, it don't mean this man is out of fight mode. This man is in full kill mode. And then you got another dude walking up on him talking shit. Exactly what happened should have happened. But in this situation, Figueiredo walks up and he was just very respectful. Told him he wants to fight him in December. Hopefully that fight happens. It was very cool. It was a very cool moment. Afterwards, I know Dana White said he felt like it was disrespectful. It was a little disrespectful because even as Figueiredo said, this night was Moreno's night. So they probably should not have. As I'm saying, they never do anything like this. This never happens. But they brought Figueiredo into the ring to essentially confront Moreno, but he was very respectful the whole time. And hopefully we get that fourth fight. So, yeah. Hopefully we get the fourth fight. Shout out to Kai Kara-France, man. He's a warrior. He lost, but he was definitely doing everything he could to win that fight. I don't know if I can't say he won't be champion. He's good enough to beat Askar Askarov. He's good enough to beat, the guys who are at the top of the division. But I don't know if he'll ever beat Brandon Moreno. Maybe a fight with Davison Figueiredo might look different. He's different size. It's a different skill set. I feel like the intimidation factor, the superpowers that Figueiredo had prior to fighting Brandon Moreno is not what it was. The mystique's not there. He doesn't look like this fucking world beater. I thought Figueiredo was going to be the champion until he decided to give that belt up. You know what I'm saying? And now it's just like, man, he probably is going to get whooped by Moreno in this in the fourth fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, Moreno's a beast with his Legos. He's a beast. In the main event, you had Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena 2, the rematch. And unfortunately for Juliana Pena, things did not go her way. I thought it was a really good fight, pretty entertaining fight. I would say that if I scored the fight, I definitely would have scored it for Nunes. But I don't feel like it was just this absolute domination that people were saying afterwards. People are claiming that Amanda Nunes here, like winning here, erases the first loss. It's like, oh well, now we know the first loss to Pena was a fluke. How? They went in there and fought, and Pena won. And Pena was not finished in this fight. Pena finished Nunes in the first fight. Nunes was repeatedly dropping Pena with her right hand. She'd catch her with that coming in and catch her with that right hand, and it send Pena flying to the floor. But each time, it wasn't like every time she got knocked to the floor, it was just like, because she's just so much bigger than all these girls. She just used her size and her power to an advantage. And it would send Pena flying to the floor, but then she'd be right back up. And even when they did grapple, Pena was attacking submission. She was doing everything I can. I don't see how people saw this as an absolute domination. I would say Nunes won the fight, but fucking Pena definitely gave a good account of herself. It wasn't an absolute domination, all right? She lost the fight, but I would say Pena is a lot better. She showed even in this fight that she's a lot better than we thought she was before the first Nunes fight. And even though she kept getting dropped, I feel like I would love to see a third fight between these ladies here. I'm not sure who else would be in line to fight Nunes right now. They're talking about Valentina Shevchenko just because like the media brought it up. But what happened when they just did an interview with Valentina and she was like, I have no interest in moving up and fighting Amanda Nunes. I'm going to stay in this weight class and just keep and focus on this weight class. She already shut that down. So who is there really that's in line to fight Nunes? I would love to see a trilogy fight. I think, I mean, it is what it is. We saw the fight. I saw the Weasels break down, and I saw Nunes talking about how like she just simply fought in southpaw. When she fought in southpaw stance, like it just confused Pena, and she didn't know how to adjust to that, and that's what kept really fucking her up. I think, I don't know, give her another chance to go and like adjust to this. I think if we could say the fucking first fight was a fluke because Nunes is saying, oh, I was injured going into that fight, so she didn't really beat me, I beat myself. Had she won that fight, she would have used that same bit of information as a piece of bragging. Like, yeah, I hurt my knee coming into this fight, but I knew I had to go in there and get the job done, and I beat her. Like, I beat her with an injured knee. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, had she went in there and won, like, what the fuck, man? She gets Pena gets no credit for legit beating her when they both came, they trained, they got into the cage. Like, if you have the option to pull out of these fights if you feel like you can't compete. But she felt like she could compete. She thought she would still be able to win. I feel like she underestimated Juliana Pena coming into the first fight, and that's why she was in the fucking shape of her life coming into this fight. Amanda Nunes was, because she underestimated Pena in the first fight. I think that's more what it is rather than there being a fluke. And it's not fair that if she loses while choosing to fight with an injury, then the person who won doesn't get any credit for that victory. But had she won with that injury, she would have got all the praise in the world for choosing to go in there. When fucking Francis Ngannou just beat Ciryl Gane, after the fight he was like, I tore my ACL before this fight. And everybody's like, look at that fucking warrior. Had he lost, he would have been like, he didn't really fight the real Francis. I tore my ACL. Like, it's silly to me that they even mention the shit. There's so many fighters, like, dude, everybody fights with injuries. Everybody's has something going on when they go in there and fight. Nobody's 100%. But yet you guys are you're like, all right, she was injured the first fight. That first fight didn't mean anything. Yeah, it meant a lot. All right? That win was as legit as it comes for Pena. I do not subscribe to this nonsense that just because Nunes came here in the shape of her life, fighting out of a southpaw stance where she says she wasn't too comfortable doing before. She said it in the post-fight interview. She wasn't too comfortable fighting out of that stance. But she saw in the fight that it was really fucking with Pena. All right? She had to make the adjustments. She's explaining to you all these adjustments she had to make coming into the second fight. And yeah, you guys are like, see? It was a fluke. If it was a fluke, then she would have came in here with the exact same preparation, exact same game plan as the first fight, and then would have been successful if it was a fluke. But if Pena was actually better than her, if she actually knows, she's not just putting up a front that she beat herself, and she knows inside that Pena was better than her, then she's gonna go and make those adjustments leading up to the second fight. Then she's gonna come into this fight in the best shape of her life. Juliana Pena was like, yo, she was sitting in a truck watching my practice. We caught her. And then when she saw that we caught her, they like sped off. And Nunes is like, oh no, I accidentally like just happened to look at her training, and then I just like walked away, like right away. Like, what do you mean? And like Pena's like, see, I don't lie, man. Like, there's all these things, man. It's like you have to like really look at what's going on here. You don't make all these adjustments. Fucking Valentina Shevchenko after the fight is like, yo, she completely copied my fight style for this fight. She made all the adjustments in the world for someone that she claims didn't actually beat her. It was a fluke win. She beat herself. Then why'd you come completely different in this fight? You should have had the same strategy as the first fight. Because the only reason, as you said, you lost was because you fought injured. Because you beat yourself, is what you said. But no, you made all the right adjustments for this fight, and you worked out clearly harder than you have your whole life. You're in the shape of your career. Best shape of your life for this fight. Yet, Pena gets no credit for it being the better fighter, having the bigger ovaries in the first fight. She gets no credit from you guys. She gets all the credit from me. And I give her credit even in this fight, even in defeat. I give her credit, and I would love to see a third fight. Next week we have UFC Fight Night. Santos Hill. Thiago Santos taking on Jamal Hill. You know, it's unfortunate that it almost seems like Thiago is now a bit of a gatekeeper. I don't feel like Thiago, since getting he tore both his ACLs in the fight with John Jones. And since that fight, we haven't really seen Thiago of old. We've seen old Thiago. And now he's stepping in there with another young lion in Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is surging right now. He's got all the momentum going with him right now. I just think at this point in Thiago Santos' career, I just don't see him being able to get the W here against Hill. I think Hill, I don't know if he's gonna be able to finish Santos. I don't know if that's in the cards, but I think he should be able to dominate Thiago Santos in this one. Yeah, I'm going with Jamal Hill by domination. I don't know, has Jamal Hill... Dude, he might finish, honestly. I don't know if he's going to need... If he's dominating Thiago Santos in the way that I think he can in this fight, I think he might get a TKO. I don't think he removes Thiago Santos from consciousness, but I think he could get a TKO in this one. I'm going with Jamal Hill by second round TKO. Also on this card, you got Vicente Luque versus Jeff Neal, man. Who did Neal just lose to? He took a step up in competition, and I think he got beat pretty badly. It was like, well, I guess we know where this nigga's at. Oh, I ain't even noticed. Muhammad Usman is fighting next week as well. Little big brother for Kamaru Usman. Muhammad Usman, heavyweight. He's fighting for the Ultimate Fighter Championship against Zach Pauga. So that is happening next week. Jeff Neal. I guess he recently got a decision victory over Santiago Ponzinibbio, which I don't really expect that to be the case. But he lost the decision. He lost the decision to Neil Magny. I thought he should have fucking won that fight. I'm thinking back to, he got pieced up by Stephen Thompson back in 2020. Back when I was there in 2019. I was there, ladies and gentlemen. When he finished Mike Perry. He walked through Mike Perry in Vegas. That was pretty crazy. So you got Jeff Neal here versus Vicente Luque. Luque was on a bit of a run until falling to Bilal Muhammad back in April. Luque had beaten Michael Chiesa via submission in the very first round. He'd beaten Tyron Woodley by submission in the first round. Why did I say Tyron Woodley. In 2022, he beat Randy Brown. He beat Nico Price. 2019, he lost to Luque. He lost to Stephen Thompson. He beat Mike Perry. And we don't need to talk anything. I don't know who Derek Krantz is. I just don't know where the ceiling is. I think everybody kind of thought he was going to go in there and finish Bilal Muhammad in their 5-round main event. And Bilal was the much better fighter on that night. You know what I'm saying? And if we're going to think about MMA math here, if you put Jeff Neal versus Bilal Muhammad. I would imagine Bilal would dominate Jeff Neal. My point being, I think Luque is like people. I'm pretty sure Luque was the favorite coming into that fight. Luque has shown to be of a higher level than what we've seen from Jeff Neal. And even with that Santiago Ponzinibbio win, I just feel like Luque should be the better fighter in this fight, and he should be able to get a finish over Jeff Neal. I'm going to go with Luque to get a finish in a fight that has me pretty excited. Or I'm just pretty high on one fighter in this fight. You got Augusto Sakai versus Sergey Spivak. Like, as you guys know, I'm not super high on heavyweight fighting. I think it's just pretty sloppy as far as MMA is concerned. I don't really like too many heavyweights, but I'm a big fan of Sergey Spivak. I think he's underrated. I think he's really starting to find his confidence and just put it all together, dude. So I think Augusto Sakai is a pretty good heavyweight who just, I don't know, he's got some tough breaks. He got knocked out by Tai Tuivasa. Just a few people. He's just had some tough matchups, and I think this should be he's ranked 14. So with this win, Spivak, I believe, is unranked, should be able to move into the top 15. And I think he could be a problem for a lot of people at heavyweight. He's just really skilled everywhere. He's huge, and he's pretty talented. So I'm pretty excited for Augusto Sakai versus Sergey Spivak. I got Spivak winning via first-round submission. That's what I got for Spivak. First-round submission, man. My boy is a fucking tank. He's just good everywhere. All right? Spivak is good everywhere, and it should be a showcase for him next week. But, yeah, I didn't even realize that Muhammad Usman, was fighting next week. I guess, yeah, Brogan Walker is fighting Juliana Miller for the TUF Championship as well. It says Ariana Lipsky is fighting, but it doesn't say who her opponent is. It says this is weird. It has Lipsky here, and it has somebody listed at 11-4, age 33, height 5'6". Like, it has some information, but it doesn't have a name or picture. It doesn't tell me who she's fighting. Maybe if I went to a different website, I could probably see, but whatever. Oh, Sam Alvey. What I believe will be his last fight. He's taking on Michael Oleksiejczyk. I think he's going to get knocked out. And that's going to be Smiling Sam Alvey's last fight in the UFC next week. I believe that's how that's going to go down. We got Terrence McKinney stepping in to fight Eric Gonzalez. That should be hype. TUF winner, last year's TUF winner, Brian Battle, is stepping back in the competition versus Takashi Sato. It should be interesting. And you also have Corey McKenna stepping back in the octagon versus Miranda Granger. That's pretty... Well, I'm personally pretty interested in that fight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pretty hype about that. And pretty hype about UFC in general, as you guys should know. But did I even talk about the Punk show? No, yeah, I don't know if I even mentioned it. That, like, well, we were going to go to Punk show my boy Brian was putting on. We went to the park, which happened to be like some fucking ducked off ass park. It's like you gotta drive through all these fucking like warehouses and shit. Like, I'm sitting here like, yo, this can't be the right way. But then there's like a sign that says like with the name of the park, and it was like pointing down this fucking road of just like more warehouses and shit like that. I'm like, yo, I ain't never been over here. We've gone by this shit. Like, I've gone like by this area my whole life on the freeway. Like, it's very like recognizable area from the freeway, but like I've never been down here, so I'm just like, what the fuck, this can't be right. And we pull up and we see like a van and just a few people out there on benches, and we go out. My boy Brian's out there, a few people just sitting around, and he's like, "Oh, yo, what happened?" He's like, "Unfortunately, like the show was canceled. Like last night," he said, like when he was getting off work from working at Brady Fest or whatever, one of the bands canceled. And then this morning, another band canceled, and there was only one more band that was going to perform, and they only had like a 10-minute set. So they just canceled the show. But like we showed up, it was other people there kicking it. I guess like I'm not on Facebook. I guess he announced it on Facebook that the show was canceled. But people just were showing up still too. And like, yeah, they were finding out then as we all would just pull up to this like small little ducked off park that apparently is just like in this park in the middle of this like industrial zone. It's a landmark, but it's basically just there for people who work in the warehouses to just like have an area to like take their break. I guess it's just like a random little ducked off park that's a warehouse. Like it's a landmark, but it's a cool little area. I would probably otherwise have no reason to ever go over there. Like I had no idea that little area existed, but. Yeah, there was no show as we thought there was going to be, but we showed up for a punk show, and instead there was a punk picnic. They were having a picnic instead, and we just dipped out of there because I was still feeling pretty hungover. Even as I started to record this, I was like, fuck, hopefully I don't Ralph all over the desk, all over my studio, because went pretty hard last night. So I was kind of glad that there was no show because, yeah, I just was not feeling it. Just a little under the weather, if you will. But thank you guys so much for being here for episode 154. No show, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys want to follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. You could email this podcast at Babylon5Podcast@gmail.com. You guys have made it this far. I appreciate you so much. Go ahead and hit that like button anywhere that you're listening to this. If you guys are on Twitch, go ahead and follow your boy at twitch.tv/Babylon5. If you guys want to cop some merchandise, head on over to teespring.com/stores/BOFpod-shop. And lastly, don't just be my Niji, be my patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/Babylon5Pod and you can be my patrons. As I said, thank you guys so much for being here for another week. 154 of them bad boys. And I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves and each other. And I'll see you when I see you. I'll holla.
Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling bling, chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling bling, chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now.